Hello, greetings and a warm welcome to our International HR Day celebration webinar. We are truly grateful to have you all here with us on this special day. My name is Berna Öztunaz, EAPM President for this term, Peryon Türkiye Delegate, and CHRO to an international energy company. On behalf of the European Association of People Management, I bring you all warm regards from our 35 member nations as we gather for this wonderful event. At the APM, we take great pride in fostering an exceptional, diverse, and inclusive networking community for HR professionals across Europe. Our aim is to promote seamless collaboration and knowledge exchange among our national member associations. The concept of dedicating a day to the HR profession on May 20th as International HR Day was one of the successful initiatives of EAPM. It was initiated in 2019 and, in a relatively short period, has now become a globally recognized event, thanks to the dedicated efforts of our international working group that includes member countries such as Lithuania, Ireland, Iceland, and the UK, among others. I thank you them wholeheartedly for their immense contribution. Together with the APM board and the secretariat, they made this day happen. As HR professionals who significantly influence business strategy and contribute to organizational success, we often overlook taking care of our own well being and professional development. Similar to parents who sometimes neglect themselves while focusing on others, we too can forget to prioritize ourselves. Today, on this special occasion, our goal is to offer an event where we can learn, have fun, and support one another. Throughout this event, we will delve into crucial topics such as ethical tech and AI integration, future workplaces, excellence in people leadership, and the importance of continuous investment in skills and education. Additionally, we have a fun yet meaningful challenge lined up to encourage collaboration and connection among participants. Don't forget to prepare your questions for the Q&A session at the end as well. So, sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee or tea, open your minds and hearts, and join us for the International HR Day event. Let's make this a memorable and enriching experience together. This year's flagship webinar brings together speakers from Ireland, Norway, Lithuania, and Italy. So, without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker today is Neil McNamara. She is the head of labor relations, people consultants, and transformation EMEA for Salesforce and the chair CRPD Ireland National Committee. Neil, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Berna, and hello, everybody. I am so excited to be here with you today, and I'm really looking forward to the event that will really celebrate our profession and offer us the opportunity to learn from each other. Today, I want to talk to you about all things AI and AI at the speed of trust. Now, what does that mean? Well, there's really three things that I want to talk to you about today. The first is that HR leadership in the age of AI is critical. And what does that really mean for us and for our teams and our profession? The second thing I want to talk about is the opportunity to embrace AI, to experiment with it, and to look at the practical applications of AI as we see them today in the employee experience. And the third thing is the importance of maintaining trust, navigating this AI journey with integrity and transparency, particularly with our employees, with our works councils, and with our unions. So lots to cover and a short time to get through it, but hopefully I can highlight some opportunities and share some of my own personal reflections as we move through this exciting time of AI. So if I look at where are we at in terms of this AI revolution, well, we started off on the first wave around predictive AI. And we have, I suppose, in 2023 entered into this new era of generative AI. And generative AI is something that I think we've all become more familiar with the introduction of tools like ChatGPT or Copilot. Well, what is the future holding for us in terms of autonomous AI? And that's wave three, and that's coming very quickly. And are we skilled for that? If we think about autonomous driving cars, they're already being tested, they're already being rolled out. I was in San Francisco there just before Christmas, and Uber was offering these autonomous driving cars. What's the practical implications of that on the workforce if it was at scale? If we think of the fourth wave, I think this is the one that people think more around Star Wars and sci fi, artificial general intelligence. And that's where um, computers, systems are learning, experiencing, and evolving without human intervention. And we need to ensure that we have the skills developed, we have the human skills developed, that we can help build the control framework around that before it comes and we are not in the position to address it. So if we look at generative AI, I was at a conference that we held in CIPD last week, and I heard from the keynote speaker, Perry Timms, and he talked about everything, everywhere, all at once in the context of HR. So everything AI, everywhere AI, and all at once on us poor HR professionals. If we think about the speed at which this has hit us, myself and Peter Cheese, the CEO of CIPD, last year were facilitating a conversation in February with a group of HR leaders. And we asked the room to put up their hands and say, who here has ever even heard of ChatGPT? And I think 3 people in the room had heard of ChatGPT previously. Roll forward 2 months, and we asked the same question to a similar group, and every single person had heard of ChatGPT. Most had tried it, and lots had questions about it. It only took 2 months for generative AI to reach 100 million users. Now, that's the pace of change that we're dealing with. And are we skilled? Are we knowledgeable? And do we have the right level of interest in this topic to really inform our strategies and to challenge our business? That's what we want to talk about today. So, what are our employees thinking about this? And what's the research telling us? 300 million jobs, it's estimated, will be impacted by AI. That's our jobs, that's our employees' jobs. But it's not something that we should be afraid of, because in addition to the impact that may happen, what we're seeing is that up to 97 million new jobs may emerge. And this is all according to Deloitte research. I'm already seeing new titles emerging like prompt engineers. Now, according to the research, at least 40% of the workforce needs to reskill. Do we currently have that built into our capability plans, into our training schedules? Are we offering our employees that opportunity to upskill themselves and be ready for this next wave? What we're seeing is that generative AI is not actually replacing employees or humans at this point, it's augmenting them. And I think it's incumbent on us as HR leaders to stand up, be, to have courage and to start experimenting and role modeling in this space and having open, transparent conversations, creating that psychological safety and that space for people to share their concerns and to talk to them about it and encourage them to develop their individual development plans to have an aspect of AI in there. 42% of employees are worried about AI taking their jobs. And 97% of workers believe that businesses should prioritize AI more and ensure that it is part of their employee development strategy. Now, one of the big worries is this trust gap that's starting to emerge. And we hear things like hallucinations, bias, toxicity. It's the number one topic for most CEOs at the moment. But yet, 66% of Americans, for example, have serious concerns about the way that their data may be used in the processing and the introduction of AI. So there's a huge opportunity for us as HR leaders to ensure that we maintain that seat at the table, that we challenge some of the ways that employee data is being used, and ensure that that trust is paramount for all business strategies going forward, particularly in the context of AI. We can be trailblazers. And in Salesforce, I'm really lucky because we are the number one trusted AI CRM platform. And we are encouraged to experiment and we have access to the tools. But actually, a lot of these tools are free for all of us to use. And we should lean in and we should, as a HR profession, be trailblazers when it comes to AI. So, how can we start to have that conversation with our employees in thinking about this trust aspect? Well, one part is looking at our culture and particularly delving into our values. At Salesforce, our core values, the number one is around trust. We also think about our customer success. We look at innovation, equality, and sustainability. Now, when you're sitting down with your board or with your leadership teams, are you thinking about the relevance of your values in the context of this AI revolution? Do your values live up to the expectations of your employees, or do they need some work? Perhaps this is an opportunity for you to lead the strategy, ensuring that your values underpin the work that you need to do in the space around AI. Now, there's a huge opportunity of connecting with our employees in a whole new way with a foundation of trust. And engaging openly on this conversation around AI and leading in this space is an opportunity to rethink our employee experience and our employee value proposition. In the past, we had a one size fits all. We had a very narrow focus maybe on employee experience and the offerings. We could have been, been seen as being reactive to the market, reactive to technology advances. But with AI, we have the opportunity for radical personalization of the employee experience. We can look at a more holistic approach to our employee benefits. We can be more proactive in leaning into technological revolution because it's a lot easier. They talk about no code or low code programming. Many of us in HR may be, you know, put off by thinking, well, we'll leave that to the tech people to do. But in actual fact, a lot of these tools only require prompts, only require interrogation of the data that we have and looking at the opportunities to apply AI to enhance the employee experience. Um, and this is the big opportunity for us to have that seat at the table and to really think through our employee life cycle and where we could infuse at an early stage some AI to improve that. So at Salesforce, we're thinking about this in terms of that employee journey. From a hiring perspective, we're looking at the screening of our CVs, the tools that we're using in terms of engaging with new candidates or internal candidates. We're thinking about the talent marketplace and how might we access all the talent. We have 70,000 plus employees around the globe. Imagine if we could really tap into that talent, understand the skills, understand who wants to go in what direction with their career. Well, AI and algorithms can help us through a talent marketplace achieve that dream. We're also looking at how we can enhance our onboarding. Now, we acknowledge that in our experience through COVID, we made huge advances in online onboarding. But there's still an opportunity, we believe, in bringing people together and having those in-person onboarding days. So looking at where can we leverage AI, where can we infuse AI into that virtual onboarding, and where is it important to gather people together so that they can really feel a sense of community and experience the culture of the organization. We're focused in on both of those areas at the moment. It's true to say that some companies are looking at leveraging AI for the entire onboarding experience. I'm not sure if that's the right thing to do, but I think it's an opportunity for us to experiment and to try out new things. We're also looking at learning and how AI can help us personalize the learning experience for our employees, suggesting content to them, much like Netflix would suggest content to you for your TV viewing. You can leverage AI to say, okay, Neve, you're interested in developing the following skills, maybe leadership, negotiation, and communication skills. And it will suggest and prompt and nudge you in a particular direction based on the information that you are feeding the AI algorithm. We're also looking at support, and many companies start their journey in AI in this area. So, how do we improve the operations of our business? How do we improve the people services of our business with AI? We can look at chatbots, we can look at personalization of that engagement with the chatbot. Does the chatbot know, for example, where in the world you're sitting? So, as an employee now in Salesforce, I can engage with a chatbot through Slack and say, I'm looking for the leave of absence details for a particular employee who's based in Ireland, and it will notice and pull just the Irish policies so that it's tailoring the information that it's giving me rather than in the past going and asking a similar question to a chatbot and just getting a large list of policies that I had to work through. This increases the enjoyment of the engagement with the chatbot. It improves the productivity. It lessens the time and the frustration that I, as an employee, may feel engaging with a chatbot and thinking, hey, it might be easier to talk to a human being. At some point, there's questions around, will I even notice that I'm engaging with a chatbot versus a human being? And that raises a trust and an ethical question. At what point do we inform our employees that they are actually engaging with AI versus a, an actual human being? And then we look at performance. And one of the really cool things that we've introduced in the performance area with AI is we have infused AI and generative AI in our goal setting. So when we go in to set our goals at the beginning of the year in what we call our V2 MOM, our vision, our values, um, our methods, our measures, and our obstacles. That's the tool and framework that we use in Salesforce. We have infused a chat GPT or an Einstein GPT, which is the Salesforce version, into our toolkit. So I can have suggested goals based on the overall company strategy, but also linking it to my manager's goals. When I go in to provide feedback for my own direct reports in the quarterly check-ins, I can ask it for some suggestions on how I can write meaningful feedback. I mean, many of us as HR leaders have been aghast at seeing some of the comments that managers have put in the past. This is a tool that will help enhance that experience both for the managers but also for their employees by leveraging something like a chat GPT. And then we can also look at other options around performance in actual doing and carrying out of our jobs. How might we leverage AI? Well, I can tell you, as a HR leader and as a labour relations leader, I have asked ChatGPT, Einstein GPT, the Salesforce version, to help me write job specs. I have asked it for help in writing a strategy for labour relations in a particular country. And while it's not perfect, it gets rid of that writer's block or that blank page syndrome. It gives you a good start in your thought process that you can then interrogate, change, and look to make sure that it's correct, because as we know, sometimes the information is not correct. And we want to just check it, verify it, reference it. But ultimately, it is enhancing our productivity. It is giving us back much needed time for other activities. And it's an opportunity to share with our teams ways in which we are leveraging this wonderful new technology. It's also giving us an opportunity to test where its downfalls are and to be knowledgeable in that space so that when we attend leadership meetings, we can say firsthand, I have had experience of using it and these are the benefits. I have had experience using it and these are the negatives I've experienced. Here's the watch outs. Here's the challenges. Now, every company at this stage needs an AI employee strategy. And it's incumbent on us to drive, to be the driving force behind that AI strategy and not wait for our colleagues in tech to come with what they believe is the right strategy. We need to start thinking about that now. We need to be looking at where does our business need new levels of productivity? What are the business models or the operating models that might support that? What are the new employee experiences that we can create? And what are the tools and skills that our employees are going to need? And how are we going to plan for that and offer them the opportunity right now to start developing them? And then pulling that together into a learning strategy. What might that look like? Who would we need support from? Are we partnering with our finance colleagues to make sure we have budget available for it? Are we partnering with the other functions to make sure we're addressing their needs through this learning strategy? This is a huge opportunity for HR to be relevant and to be the driving force of innovation and the future of work. I am so excited about this journey. And, at times people have asked me, Neve, why are you so involved in HR? Why are you so involved in CIPD? And I think now more than ever, we need our community. Now more than ever, we need to invest in ourselves. Now more than ever, we need to have the courage to challenge the status quo, to look for the opportunities for where we can leverage AI, but also to call out the challenges as we see them with regards to data, with regards to integrity, and with regards to our values. I'm going to hand back to Berna now, and I'll be looking forward to seeing some of your questions later on. Thank you very much.
Wow, it was a really interesting and great presentation. Thank you very much, Neil, for your insights. And thank you to Mary Connington and CIPD Ireland, the professional body of HR and people development in Ireland. Well, now we have two speakers from the Nordics, and they are Jarle Hildrum Moss, who is Director of Consulting Services at Deloitte from Norway, and Bjorn Tale Sandberg, Chief Strategy Officer and Transformation Lead, DNA OYG from Finland. The stage is yours, Jarle and Bjorn.
Thank you so much, Berna, and thank you for inviting us to this webinar. First of all, I would like to say that it was a really an excellent presentation by Nif just now, super inspiring, and we're actually going to pick up a little bit on what she was talking about, looking into how generative AI is being used right now in our companies, in Deloitte, and also in Telenor, and some of the challenges that we see cropping up with this new technology. So we already got a pretty good presentation of what generative AI is by NIF. I just want to make one more distinction, and that is that, of course, before generative AI came to the scene, there had been a long evolution of 75 years almost with AI being developed and used, all the way back to the 1950s. Now, until generative AI broke to the scene, most AI systems were really about uh, having computer programs help us make decisions or make decisions for us. Just like when you are using your LinkedIn or Facebook feed, there are posts that are coming. The systems, they have learned that these are the types of posts that you typically like because those are the ones you click on and so on. That's machine learning. And these systems are all over the place and they're really helpful also in the HR functions for several purposes already, right? So they stay relevant. But generative AI is different, and it's really in the word generative because they do generate content, text, images, videos, computer code, even 3D images of the human cells that can be used for advanced medical research. So it's revolutionary what's happening. And I think that it's especially relevant for HR because in HR, we do create a lot of content. So there is a new game for us, actually, for this. I work with all of these areas that are on the screen right now, and I can already see that we can use generative AI to support HR analytics. There is functionality that helps us write code, computer code, that can generate most of the analytics that I was previously developing using manual coding. We can use these types of analytics in the comp and ben function. Can do advanced pay gap analytics just with generative AI. Of course, having to be careful with the privacy of the data. It's excellent for onboarding because we can create chatbots that the new employees can interact with instead of reading handbooks and manuals. It's excellent for career development because we can create personalized career development plans for every single employee much faster than we could previously. It's also great for diversity and inclusion because we can both get a better overview of the actual diversity situation in the company, again, with data and analytics done with a generative AI. And we can also find really good actions to address these issues. I would like to just start really talking about recruitment because that's something that we're working on right now. So, Nif already said that the human, the people working in HR, we will not be replaced by AI. I fully agree. I think that AI, generative AI, as it's working today, will help us eliminate a lot of repetitive work in HR and in recruitment. And it will free up time that we can use for the most important things in recruitment, where the AI cannot help us so much, which is the interview process, which is making the new entrants feel safe, which is about the selection of candidates and these things. So, but if you look at parts of the recruitment process, there is strategy. We need to know who we're going to recruit. We already created a bot at Deloitte that can stream through all trend reports that we ever created, and we create a lot of them, so that we can get these macro trends on what types of uh, positions will be relevant for any company in the next 5 to 10 years, super fast. Then attracting talent is of course important, and we need to be able to describe the jobs we have. So again, if mentioned job descriptions, we automated that as well, writing that. HR analytics, we already created several applications where we can do these types of specialized analytics on HR data with specialized bots. And the onboarding process. So we're using the GPT, Chat GPT interface with sound, and we have a safe system where we can really interact with any handbook just with voice. And this is just evolving. So it's important, I think, to think about the whole process, the whole HR process, whatever part process you want to look at, and look at what types of tasks that you can do faster and better with AI, and where you should put more emphasis using humans. And I really don't think that we're going to see lots of job replacements in the short term. All right, so let's just look at this, just to give you the example of what this actually is. So I think most of you people listening, you're familiar with job descriptions and job profiles. We have to have one for every position in the company. They should be updated. According to research, it takes most people spend more than 2 hours writing one job description, right? And you have to describe the job, the qualifications, the pay bands, the levels, and so on. So we have a client in Deloitte just right now who has a job catalog of 400 of these profiles, and they need to write everyone, renew all of these. So that would take us about 800 hours doing it manually. That's boring for us, and it's expensive for the client. So we created a specialized bot that's called Job Profile Pro, and it can actually write these profiles for us because the language model that underlies OpenAI's models already has all the information to create these profiles. So the way it works is that this GPT is really configured to writing profile for that particular industry that this company is in. You ask it for, let's say I ask for a geometician, so a profile for a geometician. I don't know what a geometician does at all, but it writes a profile, and then it creates a download link. It takes 40 seconds, and then I get the profile out, and I can also get several out in an Excel sheet. So we took about 50 of these profiles, sent them to the HR director in this client company, and asked her to just send it to recruitment team for a blind test. So what do they think about them? And they said that they're about 80% good. So they have 20% of the whole job they have to do manually, and that's enormous time saving already there. And this is just improving. So I'll hand over now to Bjørn Tore, because there are also some ethical concerns and dilemmas associated with this.
Yes, thank you, Jarle. There are definitely ethical concerns with the use of AI, and we have all heard of many of them. If we train a model using data with bias or skewed data, the model will be biased or skewed. We have difficulty explaining why a model makes a decision or comes up with a proposition because the models are so huge and obscure. They're really black boxes. And that creates problems in all settings where you need to have a clear sort of line of reasoning and explainability for a decision that's made. We know with generative AI, ChatGPT and its likes, the models can generate false data or false results that look and sound reasonable, but actually are erroneous, include errors. So there are risks in that regard as well. And of course, there's the big elephant in the room. Will AI take away jobs? Will we see mass unemployment because of automation? We know that historically this has happened with new technology. We also know historically that it has solved itself over time. But let me get concrete and talk about one particular example from Telenor. We did an experiment, and just to give credit where credit is due, Jarle and another scientist in Telenor back then did this project where we took data on our employees from the Nordics, close to 10,000 employees over I think it was more than 7 years of data. And we built a model with the view to have the model predict who would voluntarily resign in the next number of months. So ask the model to predict who was going to leave us over the next few months. And then we used features or data such as the tenure of the employee, how many years he or she had been employed, whether they had voluntarily done e-learning in the last period, whether they had stock shares in Telenor, and so forth. And we also looked at the elements such as had their unit been subjected to downsizing or reorganization, which reflected or predicted that they might leave. And then the model actually was able to predict with 60% accuracy who would voluntarily resign. And this might not sound like a very high number, 60%. Well, that means it's wrong 40% of the time. if you had just picked at random, you would have been right 7.9% of the time, because 7.9% of people in that time period actually resigned from Telenor in this data. So it was vastly superior to what you could actually do by just guessing. And then the dilemma is really around two things. It's explainability. This model that Jarle and his co-scientist built was a deep learning model with lots of data, lots of parameters, and no real mechanism for explaining why one person was predicted to leave and another not. You can't query these models at the moment and get them to explain to you why they make the choice they do. It's a research area, but it's not a solved research area. So if I click on to the second dilemma, so this is a big problem in many areas. And the second big dilemma in this use case is obviously fairness. Should you use this insight that you have to approach people who have been predicted to leave by the AI and offer them benefits, offer them more salary, and not go to people who are loyal and not predicted to leave? Or should you not? That's a dilemma, and it seems unfair that people who score high on "I might leave," that you should actually use this data, use this insight to give them benefits. But I guess we're doing this today as well. If a manager thinks that somebody is really valuable that they want to keep might leave, you will try to do something to retain that person. So it's a dilemma. It's not black or white. So that's one example and a couple of dilemmas that we actually struggled with. And the end result in Telenor was that we did not put this into production. Telenor is very careful and clear that we need to be ethical in our use of technology. So yeah, with those words, back to you, Jarle.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bjørn Tolle, again. And I think that these examples are still relevant also in the area of generative AI. You could easily create models like this with generative AI. And the best models, I mean, the more you use the model, the more precise it becomes. So you could easily get up to 85%, I think, is the world record for this type of model. So these are still relevant, and the dilemmas are relevant. What should you do? I think beyond just using these tools as much as possible as an HR professional, so you know the tools, that will prepare you the best also for tackling dilemmas and for being relevant as a worker. I think that it's important that the HR community and the HR people work with communicating clear and transparent rules for AI use. In many companies, there are no rules, they're not clear. That creates a lot of uncertainty. People still use this technology, and that constitutes the risk. The second one, which is we are working with a lot, is to try to build a culture where we explore AI together. Now, most people use this separately, individually, in their own homes or on their own desks, but we believe that you can take down the risk a lot if we are more people looking at the results that come out of the AI. So that's what we do, is that we create big events where we work with the tool together to build a culture for that. Okay, so that's it for us. Thank you so much for inviting us again. And back to Berna.
Well, thank you both for that insightful presentation, and to Evan Bolstad and HR Norge, the largest HR and management professional network association in Norway. Our next speaker is from Lithuania, where the International HR Day idea was born. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Dr. Ostia Landsbergenia. She owns and is the Chief Executive Officer of a chain of preschools in Lithuania and has a PhD in Social Sciences and Education. Dr. Ostia, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very honored to be here. But before I start, last night I was already in bed, and then I decided to check out the new ChatGPT 4 feature. And I started talking to it. And the last thing I asked it was to create a song praising Nepal capital Kathmandu in Japanese. And it did create an amazing song. So actually, the abilities and the possibilities are limitless. And today, and I think in the future, we are seeing more and more of that. And from there, I would like to go on to my presentation, and I am going to talk about the gap, right? The skills gap, and seeing what we can do and how we can do and how we can change things. All my slides that I have made with Dali, and I'm just an educator, and I'm just experimenting and trying to do things with AI as we go. And there are a lot of questions in schools. And the skills gap in modern workplaces is a significant issue today. I think it basically what we can talk that it refers to the disparity between the skills required by employers and those possessed by the job seekers or current employees. And the more I talk to the other people who run things, they keep mentioning the skills gap. And I always remember how we are told at the metro stations, right? Mind the gap. And we have to start minding that gap. On the other hand, I have visited several years ago, well, now quite a few years ago, the Blue School in New York that really talked about skill development, about fostering creativity, and about developing socio emotional learning, and so on and so forth. But yet, in 2023, the school closed. And it really struck me. Since then, I really started looking at things why this school that was talking about everything we need for today's world had to close. So today I will address some aspects I have observed, read about, and experienced myself. I have a strong feeling that even when I come from the field of education, a lot of things will resonate across the fields. Well, one of the problems we face is that tech like AI, automation, and data analysis evolve so rapidly that it outpaces the ability of educational and training programs to keep up. What happens? We are in the need of skills that aren't readily available. Industry also demands change. We need to understand more, to do it faster, to adapt more often. Right? I looked at how many parent letters we would receive 10 years ago and how many we are receiving today. Well, it has increased fourfold. Let's take schools in general. We have talked about differentiation or personalization as about something nice to have, but today we talk about it as a norm more and more often. What does it mean? It means that while textbooks are not necessarily obsolete, we need more and more flexibility. We need more and more agility. Flexibility means that people will be flexible not just in their jobs, but in their lives as well. So, skills we get is not like a menu where we can choose. I want it there, but I don't want it exhibited somewhere else. The best of skills are transferable. Right now, you can see the ad. It's our school's ad. And our students actually did participate in creating it as well because they were judging which future professions they would like, what looks appealing to them. So I think that AI has opened an amazing thing like working together with students, creating an ad for the school, for the professions they may have in the future. So we can involve people more and more stakeholders from schools to anywhere else. We also talk a lot about talent acquisition, right? Coming from education, of course, I love the word talent. Yet I remembered the book, Talent is Overrated by Geoff Calvin. It challenges the popular belief that people are born with natural talent, arguing instead that deliberate practice is key to excellence. And the book offers practical guidance for anyone looking to develop their skills. Again, develop their skills. Mastery is not so much about talent, it's about continuous development, skills development. That means that the gap is normal. We have to normalize the gap. We have to make the gap an expectation. It's expected that you will have a gap. How will we close it? And that also means, of course, continuous upskilling, reskilling, and all sorts of continuous systemic programs to build the mastery we need. Another word we hear often, right, is retention. Honestly, I believe that we fear this word too much. And some people are just meant to leave. And even more honestly, it's good that we now live in a world where people can leave. It's good for them, it's good for you, it's good for the company. We don't talk so much about it because we see as some sort of like, it's not so good. And I understand at some point it's not good, but I would still like to reframe it. I think we should be ashamed only if we are unkind or we mistreat people in the broader sense. But if we are a community, when we are a community, we should actually look for the ways to expand ourselves and to explore more, which when we look at ourselves in a very close community, it does not look appealing. But me coming from education, we always tell our children, go for things you like, explore, find what you like, stick with what you like. And I think it should be a rule for absolutely everyone. And people may come back after the exploration, and it is okay, and they should be welcomed. But we have to stop thinking that staying is the only right way. I think that we should agree that skills are constantly to be developed. And when it comes to AI, it's a tool that can help personalize that development. And it should take off us the load of training and personalization of training. Therefore, when we hire, I think we should hire for attitude as much as possible, for willingness to work here, for willingness to work now. And I know what I'm talking about because teaching is the profession where people are leaving a lot nowadays. And I think that when we talk about it, we have to think, why is this happening? First of all, what it took me a lot of reflection to realize that it's not about me. Because me or the heads of my schools, we used to blame ourselves. We used to think that we were doing something wrong. No, we realized we had high expectations and the pace of our organization is fast. Therefore, we need people who thrive in such an environment. And again, AI tools can help us find those people, invite those people, and refine the process to actually be a better match. So what I was doing wrong was believing that we are good or could be good for everyone and that everyone may feel great or might feel great. Not necessarily. I think we should have emphasized, and that's what we are starting to do now, and communicate more, that the skills are valued, certain skills, and especially those skills in our organization. The other thing is, when we talk about lifelong learning culture, it's first and foremost important because we should adapt to changing job roles and skills requirements. I remember we lived in Brussels when our children were small, and every day I would drive past this huge ad which said that EU values lifelong learning. That was like more than 10 years ago. Do we really value or do we live it? Do we talk to the people what new they have learned, what new they have discovered? Do we value beginner's mindset? Because with beginner's mindset comes something very annoying. continuous questioning, and mistakes. Are we embracing that continuous questioning and mistakes? Right now, I am learning Greek language and it's hard. First of all, to make time to do it. Second, to be humble in realization that although I'm an expert in some fields, I'm a complete novice in the others. And there is this not just gap, there is a ravine in my skills. And we should teach our children that this is what life is about. We should constantly talk and emphasize that this is expected. It is expected that there will be a skills gap, and we will work closing it. And then when we choose something new, a new gap will open, and then we will work at closing it. And of course, it has to do with alternative hiring culture. Yesterday, I had a call with a 20-year-old girl who saw my TED Talks and wanted to ask some questions about me and my career. She wrote me a letter, introduced herself, and asked for a conversation. And the first thought I had in my mind was 10 years ago, it would not have been possible to find each other, to talk with each other. And we connected and we were able, just like now we are connecting from all these places. We connected with her. And I was thinking, if I were looking for someone, I would probably hire her. Why? Because she had a drive, she had hunger, she would fit right into our culture. What would fit into yours? I know that there has been a lot of talk considering skills-based hiring rather than traditional degrees and certifications, but I'm not so sure. Why? Well, a degree both says and doesn't a lot of things. Certificates do and don't as well. It depends. It always depends. It is actually proven that no one can predict the future, but experts give the best answer when you ask for what to do now. It's not about gut, but novices have more creative ideas, so we need everyone, just like skill development. It's a craft. So upskilling and reskilling is very important. 14 years ago, I founded our own Teachers Academy. Why? Because we were a school that was different, and I knew that we will have to offer continuous internal training to develop new skills among the employees we had. To this day, I think this is one of the best decisions ever. And this past year has been a lot of AI, talking about it, talking about the dangers and the threats we see. And then leadership and communication. Of course, we should teach and lead teams with empathy, motivation, and effective project managing. Of course, we should understand that new hires cannot possess a broad skill set from day one. And of course, there should be a clear guidance. And we should always understand that we are all human, and that what makes us so special in the age of AI. We should also understand that sometimes, no matter what we do, no matter how much effort we put in, it will not be valued. Reality is perception, and we need to understand that there are as many perceptions as there are people. Therefore, I think we should give ourselves some break, at least sometimes. And the last thing, let me share with you a quote. The children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love chatter in place of exercise. Children are now tyrants, not the servants of their households. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. They contradict their parents, chatter before company, gobble up dainties at the table, cross their legs, and tyrannize their teachers. Guess who said it? It was Socrates more than 2,400 years ago. And yet, humanity has prevailed. These amazing discoveries have been made, and also a lot of pain, destruction, and heartache has taken place. I think we can and should allow ourselves to embrace the younger generations just like the previous generations have embraced us, understanding that change is inevitable. One of my teachers has said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So let's embrace the skills gap and let's close it together every single day, like the humans have been doing for centuries. Thank you.
Well, Ostea, thank you very much for this passionate and interesting presentation. And thank you to Ostra Vitautiena and Solvega Gurudiena and PVPA, the professional organization for professionals in the HR field in Lithuania. May I please also encourage you, all participants, to convey, to extend their questions. You could just type it in chat box for the Q&A session, later Q&A session. I'm sure that we will have a lot of things to learn from each other still. And our next speaker is from Italy. I'm delighted to be able to introduce you to Alessandra Lazazzara, and Associate Professor of Organization Theory and HRM at the University of Milan. Alessandra, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Berna. Welcome, everyone. I first of all would like to really thank the European Association for People Management for inviting me. Actually, I have to admit that it's quite an hard task for me being the final speaker after this quite stellar round of presentation. We've been already exploring several percentages related to the trends in terms of AI application in the workforce. We've already been discussing about the roadmap, so what should be done in order to have a smooth and also effective introduction of AI within the workforce. We have also been exploring different examples related to how, for example, generative AI can be used in order to create job description and how AI can be used in order to estimate turnover rate or turnover intention. And with the last speaker, we have also been exploring the importance of skill gaps, creating new skill in terms of building the right asset, the right human capital that will help us as companies in order to deal with this digital transformation. And I've also to say that what I have heard was mainly related to the importance of soft skills rather than technical skills in order to navigate the landscape of future workplaces, which is actually the title of my presentation. So that's a real challenge for me closing this kind of panel today. And at the same time, probably I'm the only scholar among the speakers. So since there is a huge stereotype, which probably is right about scholar being boring, that's a kind of double challenge for me, trying not to be too boring after so many interesting presentations. But unfortunately, this is a quite complex topic. And what I'm going to do with my presentation is not presenting figures, is not discussing about practical implication, but it's more related to showing how complex this issue is, and also letting you reflect on the fact that there is not so far any golden rules or guidelines that will help you to identify the right strategy in order to introduce AI technology within your organization. My suggestions will be mainly related to really focusing on your own context, on the characteristics of your workforce. Also because I think that if you consider yourself, probably you're not representative of the entire population of your organization. Probably you are quite different. First of all, because you are already aware of this transformation and what this will require in terms of skills, in terms of change management approach. And also because probably since you have chosen to be here today, probably you are already very interested about the topic. So, when talking about the role of artificial intelligence in transforming the overall society and more specifically the workforce, probably you have also already probably you have also already heard about that narratives that connect the future of the workforce to the famous novel authored by Philip Dick, which is called Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which then inspired the quite iconic movie Blade Runner. However, this narrative, which is very spread, especially in popular media and into society, what is practically speaking suggesting is that we will live in a context and we will work in a context in which humans will be heavily influenced by machines. This is generating a kind of highly polarized perspective in the sense that there are, on the one hand, people who are very worried about that, who are very worried about the implications related to the adoption of AI technology into the workforce, that somehow expect very negative outcomes, both at the company level, but especially at the individual level, in terms of motivation, in terms of satisfaction, in terms of well-being. And on the other side, there are people that are quite happy and open toward accepting this challenge. However, I think that this metaphor, starting from this narrative, could be very misleading. First of all, because it tried to somehow oversimplify all the complexity surrounding this debate. And also because it mainly focused on the negative effect on AI adoption, on people, attitudes and outcomes. But on the one hand, there is one very interesting aspect or insight related to using this metaphor, which is the role of dream. So I'm very sorry for electric sheep and androids out there, but I think that the role of dream, and especially the role of dreams as regard human dreamers, is very important and is probably the starting point for us, or even better for you as a HR professional, in order to really understand not only what could be the consequences of AI introduction as regard the job design and the workplace, but also what people want and what are their dreams in terms of future workplaces. So we may given for granted that technology is a very powerful driver as regard the evolution of managerial model and the change in terms of organizational design and job design. At the beginning of this digital transformation, the focus was mainly on processes. So trying to understand how overall technology and more specifically AI may improve processes. However, technology is not objective, is not something that you just apply and may expect positive outcomes occurring. It's not neutral. It's something that people interpret. We associate meanings to the fact that my company has chosen or has not chosen to apply that specific technology. And this meaning somehow reflect what we ourselves in terms of how this technology may improve or decrease my status within the company, my reputation within the company, my power within the company, the characteristics of the job that I'm doing. So from this point of view, it's very important to consider AI not just as a tool per se, but more as something that may help to build a new social environment. Indeed, the most recent research attention related to the adoption of technology within the workplace is more focused on the social construction of knowledge related to the adoption of technology. So the focus and the question we have to ask ourselves is not if our people are ready enough, are skilled enough in order to use AI technology. But the starting point, the most important question is my organization prepared to leverage AI? And when I refer to my organization, I'm referring to the organizational culture, the leadership style, the job design, and so on. And in the recent past, over the last years, there have been some very interesting examples of how technology adoption has been a huge driver in terms of changing organizational design. As you can see here, there are now several companies that are using different self-organizing archetypes. Probably you've already heard about the role of some companies applying holacracy or agile within the company, or teal organization or exponential organization, for example, which are all new types of organizational design or organizational structure which derive from the adoption of technology. And why the adoption of these design approaches is strictly related to technology? Because on the one hand, technology improves coordination mechanism, so improve the communication flow and the coordination among different departments, different units, for example, within company. But on the other hand, it is also true that technology adoption increase accountability as regard individuals, in the sense that we have more access to data, for example, or we have access to better data. The quality of information that are provided is increased or improved thanks to the adoption of technology. So we may expect, on the one hand, that the adoption of technology, and more specifically of AI technology, will lead to more bottom-up approach as regard organizational design, more horizontal way of organizing. At the same time, we may also think that there should be some preconditions in order to have this self-organization happening within our context. Indeed, as you can see here, there are some common self-organization traits, independently from the fact that the archetypes we are referring to is holacracy, agility, teal organization, and so on. So, for example, teams characterizing this organization are very autonomous, in the sense that they have very clear goals. They are very aware in terms of which is the purpose, what are the values that are guiding our job, and people within the team share responsibility, share a distributed leadership that guide them without the need to having bureaucratic organization or very top-down organization. So there is a strong emphasis on teams, there is strong emphasis on distributed leadership, there is a strong emphasis on experimentation, there is a strong emphasis on try and error also, because errors is part of this self-organization, but more as a way to improve and to experiment. So there are some preconditions mainly related to the organizational culture, the organizational leadership, the leadership model, and so on, that will allow, thanks to the adoption of technology, to realize some new way of organizing the organization. But if we go more specifically into the effect of AI on job design, which is strictly related to the characteristics of everyone's job, please keep in mind the list that I'm showing in this slide and consider it as a kind of checklist, something that you really have to ask to yourself in order to understand if the adoption of AI into your workforce, into your organization, is more likely to provide negative consequences, especially when these characteristics are somehow low, or are more likely to provide positive outcomes in terms of performance, in terms of satisfaction, in terms of motivation, and so on. This list mainly represent job design features, job design characteristics. For example, ask yourself, is the AI that my company is applying for that specific job, for that specific unit, for that specific department, is increasing or decreasing the job variety or the variety of skills that people have to use at work? Because in the case in which the AI technology is increasing job variety, then of course we will reach the positive outcome of augmentation. So people adding more tool, more information, more power in order to perform the activity. But otherwise, if the job variety is decreasing due to the adoption of AI, in that case, it will be more that AI will be interpreted, because we have to understand that it is very important how people interpret technology, will be mainly considered as a cage. Another very important aspect is the task technology fit. Ask yourself, before choosing which technology to use in my company for that specific role, for HR, for operation, or whatever, has the company done a task fit analysis? So a kind of list of all the tasks that should be done by that person in that specific role. Has the company done a technology assessment, a technology analysis, in order to really understand which are the technologies that could be useful in a specific part of the processes or of the activities that that person has to perform. So understanding the technology fit and having some preliminary analysis is very important in order to choose the right tool that actually will result in better performance. Otherwise, and I'm sure you're very familiar with this because quite often it happens that we are plenty of technologies within our company, but basically no one is using that technology or very few people are using them. Another aspect, very important, is human AI collaboration, because especially generative AI, which is something that somehow replicates human interaction, is really changing the border of relational aspect of our job. So somehow AI may be considered as a colleague if I really understand the added value or why that technology is being used or has to be used in my job. So in this case, it will be considered as a colleague. But otherwise, if I think that, for example, I'm already very well skilled or prepared in order to do something, and I do not need this AI tool, I will just develop some aversion as regard using AI for my job. So think about this, how people feel confident about their job. Because usually people that feel many confident will be more reluctant toward the adoption of AI because they believe that they do not need it. They are just good enough as humans for what they are required to do. Another dilemma, another very important aspect is related to autonomy. Is technology providing more autonomy, so more degrees of freedom to employees that in that case will feel empowered by the technology? Or is autonomy interpreted as a surveillance or as a control system? If you think about gig workers, for example, in which mainly their work is based on platform that monitor and somehow control them, it's clear how the adoption of AI may be understood as a means to control people within the company. And the last but not least, something which has very been discussed by some previous speaker is the role of AI transparency. Because if it's clear enough to people why the company has chosen to use this AI tool, which is more or less the functioning, how it works, or for what reason, purposes, or specific activities this AI tool is used, then it is more likely that people will be developing trust toward AI, rather than feeling, for example, discriminating by a decision that has been taken by an AI tool rather than a human. So we cannot talk about AI and the effect of AI on job design per se, but it's very important to have a very context and employee-specific analysis in order to understand how AI can support workers in your context. So you should keep in mind that your workforce, your organizational characteristics are the starting point that should be taken into account. In order to do what? In order to create a people-centered AI workplace, in which, once again, technology is not a tool, but is something which is related to how we interpret it. If people interpret it in a kind of positive way, then they will be more likely to use it and use it in the right direction. Otherwise, it would be quite likely that they will try to being resistant or boycott its adoption. So a quite recent meta-analysis on the topic has identified 4 main areas in which the management and the HR professional have to work in order to create the people-centered AI workplaces. So the first one is design. Going back to organizational design and job design and doing, first of all, analysis in order to determine which are the most effectively human AI collaboration system and in order to design them. The second core dimension is mainly related to processes. We have somehow already talked about the risk in terms of ethical implication, discrimination, biases, when it regards the adoption of AI for people management. However, I think that it should be also considered as a huge opportunity in order to keep more fairness within the organization, in order to have more objective decisions within the organization, especially as it regards human-related decision. Because it is true, and we are all aware that there could be the so-called hallucination phenomenon as regard output provided by AI, but at the same time, these models are improving and will be improving the machine learning model, the machine learning algorithm, and so on. But on the other side, there are also many mitigation strategies that should be adopted and could be adopted in order to prevent AI to produce biased or unfair outcomes. The third dimension is mainly related to the leadership role, because we know that the organizational context in terms of organizational characteristics, but also leadership characteristics, is very important in supporting AI adoption. So the leader's role per se is changing due to the adoption of AI, because, for example, it could be a useful tool in order to provide unbiased or more objective feedback or performance management decision and so on. But on the other side, they are the leader, the one driving people toward understanding why AI is important for our organization. And the last but not least, we have this people-related domain. Because on the one hand, it's very important that when introducing AI into the workplace, we monitor the effect in terms of job design changes, in terms of individual outcomes such as well-being, satisfaction, motivation, and so on. But on the other side, it's plenty of opportunity that AI may bring to the organization in terms of new way to monitoring well-being and measuring well-being and providing suggestions and solutions, even personalized solutions in order to manage well-being. So I think that design, processes, leadership, and people are the four main domains that should be taken into account in a very contextual based approach in order to create a people-centered AI workplace that works for you and for your organization. Thank you very much, and back to you, Berna.
Well, Alessandra, let me tell you that your worry was completely baseless. Your presentation was far from boring. Indeed, it was a thought-provoking presentation, and I'm sure that we learned a lot from you. Thank you very much. And thank you to Raffaele Credito and AITB, the Italian Association for People Management. So, one more time, our sincere thanks to all speakers and member associations. And I think this is the point that I hand over to Beck for the future stages of our event. Beck, back to you.
Thanks, Berna. I am delighted to be hosting the Q&A today. I'm Beck Normand. I'm the head of the EAPM Secretariat, and I very shortly will be joined by all my colleagues on screen who you've heard from today. And if you've posted a question in the chat, I will do my best to cover it off with all of my colleagues. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to start with a question from that came up during Neve's presentation, but I'll post it to Neve and then I'll ask all of you if you've got further comment based on what she said, if that's okay. The question was, when we don't know what we'll be using AI for, how do we know what to train on? Where do we even start? Neve, maybe you can help them with that.
Well, I think the first thing is that starting with a curious mindset is the first step. Getting curious, trying to understand what AI is the beginning of the journey. And then, as I was suggesting, taking a leadership role and experimenting and having courage to try out some of these tools is, for me, the beginning of the journey. As processes evolve, as our strategy evolves, and we become more familiar with the tools, we'll then start to understand the impact for our organizations. I also think having honest conversations with the other functions that we work with, understanding what their needs are, what their demands are, and what their knowledge of AI is, will help us to craft that training plan or that capability strategy for the organization. So I think it just starts with being curious, leaning into it, and speaking to our own organizations and also our networks and communities, understanding even events like today help inspire us on that journey.
Thanks, Neve. Does anyone want to come in on that?
I can chip in as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think it's also important to think about what you're doing every day. Are there things that you're doing that are repetitive? For instance, if you write job descriptions a lot, that's somewhere where you could start to apply these tools. Because I think that these tools are so flexible that you could use it for almost anything. And you should try, my advice would be to try to find something that fits you and your life and the things that you're concerned with, and also the things that you know something about, because then you're also able to distinguish when the chatbot is right and when it's wrong. So use this in your own domain on tasks that you do every day. That's my advice.
Thank you, Yala. Which actually leads me on to a really nice question, which was during your presentation. And it's how can we get the HR person in the room when we're investigating the purchase of software and tech? They have no perspective on the needs or the implementation, and whether the company's even ready for this tech, whether the staff are ready. How do we get that conversation much more joined up?
Okay, so if I understand correctly, and I'll hand over to you, Bjørn as well, but this is about how a company can get a internal dialogue about AI going.
Yeah.
Yes. I think that a very good way to do that would be to try to address it in large, let's say, large meetings or town halls, if that's possible. To create hackathons or events where people are allowed to discuss and to use the tools in practice could be a good idea. Because the reality is, according to research, that most people are using, or many employees are using the tools in hiding secretly, because they have private access to the tools, right? So they're already there and they already know about it, but it's secret often. So I think that it's really to try to bring it up to the surface in a safe environment, and that's often better if you're actually able to get people together in the physical space to talk and to test it, really. Bjørn Tolle, yeah.
Yeah, if I can add to that, just give an example of how we have addressed this in Telenor in Finland or in DNA in Finland. We have done two things, basically. We have decided to be forward-leaning in testing out the technology. So in the Telenor group, DNA is the front runner in, for instance, testing out the Microsoft Copilot among different types of employees and functions. And then we evaluate and try to learn what works, what doesn't work, etc. And the second thing we've done is we've set down a cross-functional team with HR, with regulatory, legal, with technology, with IT, of experts that will look at and evaluate and give opinions on all the proposed use cases or areas where we would like to use AI, both to make sure that it's done ethically within the legal bounds, whether it'll positively impact people, and whether we can do it and afford it. So we've done those two things, and but basically we're learning every day. But we believe that that framework is going to help us.
Thank you, Bjørn Tole. Neve, I saw you were nodding. Is there something similar at Salesforce?
Yes, well, obviously it's bread and butter for us in terms of AI, but we also are implementing AI within our own organization, and then we also have to be a trusted advisor to our customers. So we have created an AI council, so much as it was just outlined there, that we've cross-functional team, senior leadership team, that any proposals would go through, particularly around large investment or new initiatives that we want to roll out. Maybe it's Salesforce on Salesforce or an external tool that we want to bring in. But we also have the tone from the top from Mark Benioff saying, I want you to go out and try all AI tools. And I don't want you to be afraid, because if you want to understand the benefit of Salesforce versus Microsoft Copilot, then you need to understand how the different tools work with each other, or where the benefits or the shortcomings are. So I think that tone from the top is really important, and also creating that kind of an AI council to help inform the conversation from multiple lenses. And it's critical that HR play a role in that council.
Austria, I saw you nodding at Neve's comments around the voice from the top. Would you like to come into that?
No, I was just thinking that when we introduced the tools to the teachers, we started with the ones that help them. Basically, we look for something that's the most annoying job. And teachers are in their job for teaching children. They hate planning. Well, most of the teachers hate planning. So you need tools to help them with planning. So instead of writing a plan, which is, quite a boring task for 2 hours, now you can have it in 30 seconds and then create a plan which is fun and entertaining and hands-on around it. So, and of course we need the early adopters to actually be rejoicing, because when you come and you say, this is amazing, I tried it, then a lot of people say, yeah, maybe you just like it, But when a colleague who does exactly the same job comes in and says, I tried it and saved me hours and hours of something I don't really like to do, then they're like, oh, okay, why nobody told me about it before? And I'm like, oh, okay, fine. But but as long as it gets people going, as long as it gets people on board, as long as it shows them that there is a better way, an easier way, I think it's amazing.
Oh, thank you, Austria. And actually, that leads me on to a really good question that came up during your presentation, Alessandra. And that was, if we want to create a people-centered AI workplace, then would you recommend creating a specific AI policy for employees or something else? Thoughts?
Yeah, I think that at a certain point, a sort of AI policy should be developed within the company. However, probably this AI policy is just the final part of a process in which, first of all, you start by asking yourself, and I mean to your organization, do we really need AI? And for which purposes we need AI? And for what type of job or activities we need AI? Is this aligned with our overall business strategy, our overall HR strategies? So first of all, you should really have a kind of strategical thinking on that in terms of what we want to achieve and how. And that probably having a policies that somehow represent what are the main purpose that the companies want to achieve thanks to the adoption of AI, but also in terms of which are the values they are relying on in order to being people feeling more comfortable in terms of we know why the company is going to use this and for which purposes, and how data collecting are going to be used in terms of influencing HRM related decision making. So I think that they somehow represent a very sensitive topic as regard implications in terms of people management. And so probably at a certain point, we should come up with an actual AI policy. Also because especially as regard the European context, there are already several things going on in terms of AI Act or AI regulation. And it should be also considered that different geographical contexts are completely different, of course. So it's important to understand how, in my context, in my organization, we interpret AI and for which purposes or goals.
Thank you. Neve, would you like to come in on that?
Just one build on what Alessandra is saying. I think we absolutely do need to take a strategic approach, and we should be mindful of what's coming with the EU directive as well. However, people are using AI and ChatGPT every day, and I think we need to be very mindful of that and come up with guidelines very quickly if we haven't, with regards to the use of company data, personal data, company names, because even if they're using it on their personal device, if they're not aware of the pitfalls, or that, if you put in something around Salesforce into ChatGPT, that could be searchable in the future or could come up in somebody else's feed, or if they put in facts and figures around salary data or something, that could come up in another person's, because the algorithms are learning from every piece of information that's fed into it. So I think we need to be very quick in coming up with some guidelines for our employees while we think about the strategy and how we might leverage AI into the future.
Thanks, Neve. I'm going to do a very quick final question because I'm aware that we're already out of time. The question is, you're all leaders in your field, you all use AI, I'm very sure of that. One thing that you've used AI for in the last week. Astea, I already heard yours during your presentation, so I'm going to move swiftly on. Alessandra, what have you used AI for in the last week?
Suggesting jokes to be used during this presentation.
And they worked clearly because your presentation was not boring in the slightest.
Thank you very much for that.
Beyond Tale.
Yeah, my second job is to write computer software. I have a small company with some friends, and I use GPT to find the errors, the bugs in my code. And
Okay.
what it can do is just mind blowing. I can spend an hour trying to find an error, and it does it in 3 seconds. So that I've done in the last week.
Thank you. Björn? Björn?
Yeah, I wrote a children's book with my 8-year-old daughter using ChatGPT and Canva, so integration of those two tools. It's about a family of earthworms that creates a circus underground and finds rockets. And we have been working on that for a full year, just writing drawings. And now finally we made it, and it's on my LinkedIn feed. So whoever likes that kind of thing, you can just go there.
Post your LinkedIn feed in there so we can all see it. And Neve, finally to you. What have you used AI for in the last week?
In the last few minutes, I would have looked at what are the 3 key takeaways I want to take from the notes that I had been taking from all the speakers. And yesterday I used it to help me summarize some notes from the CIPD conference from last week for a LinkedIn post. So really practical. It's still my own thoughts, but it's just helping me to condense them into usable bite-sized information.
Thank you. Neve, Yalimas, Björn Tale, Astea, and Alessandro, thank you so much for answering the questions and thank you for your amazing presentation. It's been a really exciting experience today. Finally, I would like to hand over to my colleague Solveiga, EAPM board member, and she will talk you through another International HR Day initiative. Solveiga, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Beck. Hello, everyone. As Beck mentioned, I am EAPM board member. I'm Solveiga Grudienė, and I am from Lithuanian HR Association. And today, since 5 years ago, we came to EAPM with the initiative "Let's Celebrate Our Profession" with International HR Day. We can't stop with new initiatives. And today I am very happy to be able to introduce you a new upgrade of this. The idea is that this year, and we hope very much that for the future years, we invite you for international initiative for International HR Day. Together with our partners, startup from Lithuania, Work 15. And let's start this year celebrating and moving more, and we'll see how it will happen. So I would like to go to the next slide, but okay. So as everyone knows that EAPM is for HR, for everybody related to people profession, for community building and strengthening, for better people future in the world. So we decided that for this STEPS challenge, we will raise some goals to make people's life better, to introduce more attention to the nature, to the world. So our goals are to reach 1 million steps individually, and it's reachable because it's only 7,000 steps per day. To walk around the world 100 times together. This is just some million steps combined. And each million steps helps us to raise 3,500 virtual trees. So working together, we can grow huge forest in the planet, and doesn't matter which area of the Europe or which area of the world we live, we can make a group, join this step challenge, and go together. So, but more details about this, I would like to ask to explain initiators of the idea and creators of the startup, Vlada Musvidaite and Rima Alberkite. So next slide and words and minutes yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vlada. I am founder and CEO of global sustainable activity platform. It's called Walk15. And first of all, I want to congratulate you to all of you of International IHRD. I think you will make amazing job for us. And of course, from a startup perspective, we are so happy. We are so proud. Actually, I did one picture because nobody didn't believe in me, that I was today together with you. And of course, I am so happy because we already have traction. 5,000 already participants joined to the International IHRD. I think it's amazing start. Yeah, Rima.
Yes, so as Vlada mentioned, we're definitely absolutely happy to be here today, and we'll be even more happy to go with you all those 140 days. And I do believe what Solveiga said is just the beginning of our true and global friendship. To have in mind how we created app Walk15. So every morning we come with the team together to work, and we start our day with one question. If HR people, HR specialists and professionals are taking care of each one member of each team, who takes care of the HR professionals? So we created the Sustainable Activity Platform, especially for you to engage the employees into sustainable physical activities and to stay healthy like individuals, but as well to make this planet more healthy every day. The most important thing is that we're really fast-growing Baltic startup, but to mention in members how fast. So this presentation was made a couple of weeks ago, and today we have not only 700,000, but 725,000 app users all over the world, and 1,300 companies that are using our platform to engage employees. We are trusted by European Commission, by national Olympic committees, by EuroLeague, by Berlin partners. So we're very happy because of the reason we do not track your location. We do not collect any of your personal data. We do not sell it to any third parties. So you can be absolutely sure when you join this challenge, it's going to be a huge celebration, not the nerves. Next slide. As we want to be with you on a casual basis, definitely we want to celebrate with you. So as we, as a startup, going to celebrate our 5th anniversary this summer, we are more than happy to create this special international step challenge for you, for your community, to celebrate your 5th anniversary. With this challenge, it's not only that we want to go walk, engage people or teams or your members or EAPM members or any other future employee, nowadays employee, employer, and so on. all we want to do is to spread the message to the world how important your profession is, how important the people management is. And as you've been talking about the artificial intelligence, I do believe that human resources and management of human will stay as long as possible in the human hands. Next slide. I will go through very simple agenda of our challenge, encouraging you definitely to participate. So this challenge will take 20 weeks, 140 days. It is in our platform already. And as Vlada mentioned, if you are like challenging yourself, either you should or should not participate, don't hesitate. Almost 5,000 people are already in the challenge. They joined it and they're waiting for it to start on the 20th of May. 40 countries. It's amazing. And I can announce the top 10 of the countries that are the most active with most of the members. So you can check your country and you can join. So it's Lithuania, Latvia, Romania, Estonia, Ireland, Great Britain, Norway, Germany, Ukraine, and Turkey. So the first challenge for you is like to make your team to top 10, and we definitely gonna come to you with the prizes. So as Solveiga mentioned, we have several goals, like to reach 1 million steps individually, so 7,000 steps per day. It's very easy. It's very easy. Professors say the healthiest thing is 10,000 steps, and it is absolutely doable. We will walk around the world 100 times. I do believe we will make more. To keep in mind that in 5 years, during our app existence, we went around the world with all the participants 10,000 times. So make it 1,000, okay? And about virtual trees and virtual forest. Yes, it's going to be a virtual forest, and let's make the very first in the world HR virtual forest. And the very last slide, I would like to introduce you the most important man in our team. It's Dainius, and he is ahead of the support team. In case you're having any troubles by connecting, downloading, joining, here is Dainius, or joining the step challenge. Dainius is the one who will help you 24/7. And Solveiga and Beck can say it happened once on Friday evening in Cyprus, I think, or something like that. So Dainius jumped up and helped each one. So all we want is to invite you to make it a record-breaking challenge, a global one, and let's celebrate and let's win together.
Yes, and I will add one thing. First of all, you should choose only one team. It can be August, it can be September, it can be November, and that's all. And just walk.
Okay, thank you very much for helping us to do some activities and be sportive. My name is David Duchesne. I am the Vice President of the EAPM, and I have the pleasure of wrapping up this webinar. But before I'm going to thank everybody, I would like to give some comments about what we've heard in the past almost 2 hours. Now, I heard pessimists, I didn't hear them. I didn't hear the optimists. I heard a lot of realism about the future of work in relation to AI. Not looking at it as a threat, but looking at it as an opportunity that we have to experiment with and we have to test. I heard a lot about trust, ethics, skills, dilemmas, behavior, leadership, collaboration, autonomy. So it's all about human behavior, human aspects of work. And we haven't talked so much about the technology itself because it's coming, it's there, it's going to grow, it's going to improve, and we have to deal with it. And since this is probably an HR webinar, we have been focusing on that. But that's not entirely true, because when you listen to technologists and you listen to business leaders, they are all looking at this human behavior aspect of the technological change. And as technology change, we have to adapt. But human behavior doesn't change. And that is why we're keeping the focus on how people behave in relation to that change. And the final comment I want to make is that we should not forget what the essence of the HR profession is. It is about making sure that people are willing and able to contribute sustainably to a future, to value for the future. And if this is with or without technology, it is our essence. It is the thing that HR professions or professionals do. So these are the 4 comments that I wanted to give. I would like to thank everybody. I would like to thank Solvega and Walk 15 for inviting us. I would like to thank all the speakers of today and the national associations. I'd like to thank all the working group members and the secretariat who have all worked very hard to shape this webinar. I, of course, thank all the attendees, all of you who's been there, and maybe some of you have left, and maybe some of you are watching this in a delay. Please look at the other free events that take place in context of the International HR Day. You can find them on the EAPM website. The link will be in the chat. And please join us in this walk challenge with Walk 15. Also, the details are in the chat, and you will be able to participate in big teams of international HR professionals. And then finally, I would like to wish you a very happy International HR Day in 2024. This is a really great profession to be in these times of change, and I think we can all make a huge difference for the people, for the businesses, and for society. Talk to you later. See you soon.